What's up, YouTube peeps and barbecue freaks? Thank you guys for stopping by. Today's video, I'm gonna do some ribs. I'm doing a practice run on some comp ribs. My in competitions, my ribs have really been lacking, so I'm trying to switch things up just a little bit and seeing if I can improve them. And so I'm gonna do that today. Since it is a comp recipe, I'm not gonna talk about like what rubs I use and a couple other things that I'm using. I'm not gonna mention what they are. You'll see them, but I won't mention them. And there are guys that I compete against that watch my channel, so I want to, keep that to myself. So I hope you understand. Another reason for this cook is I'm cooking these on my Traeger, and I'm trying to get down the timing for cooking ribs at a certain temperature. I'm gonna cook these at 225. I'm sorry, 250. So I want to see how long it takes. I did this previously with some chicken, and now I'm trying it on some ribs. So those are the two things. I'm trying a different recipe, and I want to get the timing down for these ribs and seeing how long it takes, at 250 on the Traeger. So that's what this video is going to be about. It should be interesting. I think this recipe is going to be really good. We'll see. Let's get started. All right, so here's the ribs. I already seasoned the backside. I'm going to take just a little bit of olive oil on the top for the binder. You can use whatever binder you like. Mustard, water, no binder. It's up to you. So the first layer will be, well, I'm not going to tell you, but we're going to add the first layer, is what I meant to say. And I know someone will probably complain that, well, why make ribs and not tell us what you're using? Well, the reason is because there are people, several, who I compete against who watch my channel. So I'm just not going to give out my competition rubs and recipes. I give out quite a bit already as far as how I trim stuff, and I've even mentioned some of the rubs that I've used in previous videos for comps. So today I'm not going to mention which ones I'm using. We're going to see how this works out, if it works out. This is, like I said, a completely new recipe that I'm trying out. And these are actually rubs that I've used before or currently use. I'm just kind of switching them around and, just seeing how this comes out. That's that. I'm going to take a water bottle. Just kind of rehydrating these rubs a little bit. Now I'm going to come back one more time, one more layer of these rubs. One of the rubs that I'm using today is a completely new rub that I've never used before. So we'll see how that turns out. We're going to cook these on my Traeger. I'm going to set the temp at 250 degrees. And I think I mentioned earlier, but if I didn't, another reason for this cook is to, see how long it takes at that temperature. It's really, really important to make sure you have your times down. Now when I'm cooking at home, I can tell, or I know that it's going to take, you know, 3.5, 4.5 hours. But if I need some more time and they're not ready, then, you know, I have that luxury of letting it go because I'm just cooking at home. But in competitions, I don't have that luxury. In competitions, you need to make sure you have your times down pat. And you know, if you're too early, if you put them on too early, your ribs will dry out. If you don't put them on soon enough, they'll be tough and not ready to go. So it's really, really important competitions to make sure you have that timing down. And that's what part of what I'm doing today is, you know, at 250, seeing how, you know, what the ribs look like at 2 hours and when I need to wrap and all that. My guess is on the Traeger at 250, these will probably be done in 3.5 hours. That's my guess. We'll find out. Anyway, this is what the ribs look like here. I'm gonna let this rack set for a little bit, let that rub set in, and we're gonna get the Traeger fired up. All right, you guys, these ribs have been sitting for a little while. You can see that rub is set in. So we're gonna get them on the Traeger. It's running at 250 degrees, and I'm gonna put them on for 1 hour. And at the 1 hour mark, I'll either spritz with apple juice, or I'm gonna make a mop to put in the ribs once I wrap them. I might use that to kind of mop the ribs. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna go with yet, but this is what the ribs look like right now. We're gonna get them on the Traeger and get this cook underway. All right, so we got the ribs on. The fatter part of the ribs I put on this side because this side tends to get a little hotter. So the ribs look like. We're gonna get this closed up and then get this cook underway. The wood that I'm using, or the pellets that I'm using, is that Texas beef blend, and it has oak, pecan, and mesquite. So that's the wood of choice that we're using today. So we're gonna keep this closed. We'll check back in an hour. Guys, these ribs have been going for right about 1 hour and 45 minutes. At the 1 hour mark, I did start spritzing with apple juice, and I've been doing that about every 20 minutes. And I did create a mop, and at this point, I don't think that rub hasn't set yet. So it still has to go for a little while. But I created a mop, and at this point, I'm gonna start kind of mopping it a little bit with the mop that I created. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But this is what they're looking like now. And they still have a ways to go. So 1 hour and 45 minutes in. I'm guessing another 45 minutes. We may be ready to wrap. We'll just see what it looks like then. So this is the mop that I made, and without telling you everything that's in it, I will say that there's some Coca-Cola, some canola oil, apple cider vinegar, and then a few other ingredients that I don't want to share, or I'm not going to share. So this is my competition mop. I'll sprinkle this over the ribs from this point on. The first hour I used apple juice, but at this point I'm going to switch over to this, and I'll just take a basting brush and just kind of drip the mop over the ribs. And then when we wrap, what's left of this, I'm going to add that to the foil when we wrap it. So as you can see, it's gotten dark out here. So I'm not going to be able to do much more filming out here. However, these ribs have been on for about 2.5 hours, and I'm going to take this. This is the mop that I created, and I'm just using a baster to baste these ribs a little bit. I'll probably do this about 2 times, maybe 3, depending on how they're looking, and when until they're ready to wrap.
should be ready to. They should be ready to wrap. Spit it out. They should be ready to wrap here pretty soon. But I don't think the sauce is set yet. I'm sorry, I don't think this rub is set yet. So we're gonna let it go until it is. So that's it. That's what it looks like. Yeah, that rub's not set yet, which is really surprising. I thought by this time it would be set, but it's not. Next time I pick back up, it'll be once I'm ready to wrap. We'll add the mop to it, and I'll show you what that looks like. You guys, these ribs have been on for exactly 3 hours, and I think the bark is set enough. I'm gonna come back now with this mop that I created. I'm just gonna pour this in the foil pan here and right over the ribs. And the measurements for this is enough for 2 racks. I'm only doing 1, so there's that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to top it off with a little more rub. And then I've got another mixture here of some stuff that I'm not really going to mention what it is. I will say there's some honey in here, and that's about it. You can see we got some nice pullback on these. So this is going to add some heat, a little heat with some sweet. This stuff tastes amazing. This glaze here. Put that right on top. I think that's good. We're gonna wrap it up, get it back on the Traeger. Let's see, it's been going for 3 hours. I'm gonna put it back on the Traeger for another, we're gonna go 30 minutes and see what it looks like at the 30-minute mark. Again, it's dark outside, so next time I pick back up, it'll be when they're done. I mean, I can't film outside, it's just too dark. But this is what we're looking at now. Again, we got some nice pullback here. I don't know if you can quite see that. There you go. Got some nice pullback on these ribs. We've got some nice color. We've added another couple of layers of flavor profile to this. We're gonna get it wrapped up, get it on, and you know, they're gonna kind of steam in this mop and just kind of tenderize a little more, and they should be perfect by the time they're done. So we're gonna check them in 30 minutes. They may need to go 45 minutes, we'll see. But I am gonna check them at the 30-minute mark. We'll see what they look like. We'll sauce them, get them off, give them a taste. All right, you guys, these ribs have been on wrapped in the foil for 1 hour. I just pulled them off and unwrapped them. I'm gonna take some barbecue sauce that I have here mixed with a couple other ingredients, and we're just gonna apply that to the ribs. I like to use a bottle like this in comps instead of a brush because it prevents that streaking that you see. If you use a brush, you'll notice there's like streaks when you go back and forth. There's streaks on the ribs, or you know, ribs, chicken, brisket, whatever you're doing. There's streaks when you're using a brush. So I like to use this bottle when I'm applying the sauce to my chicken or my ribs, because as you can see, it gives it a like a nice glaze, and there aren't any brush tracks left on it. So this is gonna be the first layer. I'm gonna use 2 layers. This is the first layer. I got that on. I'm gonna put it back on the pit, let it sit for about 15 minutes. I'll apply another layer, let it sit for 15 minutes, and then we'll pull them off. All right, these ribs are done. This is what they look like. They're still in the foil pan here. So what I did is they cooked uncovered for exactly 3 hours. And then at the 3-hour mark, I wrapped them in foil. You saw that I added the mop and all the other ingredients to it. And I let them go wrapped in foil for exactly 1 hour. At that point, I opened it up, which is what you see here. And then I added the sauce to it. I let it go for 15 minutes. Put them back off of the pit. I applied a second layer of sauce, let them go for another 15 minutes, and this is the finished product here. So you can see we got some great pullback on these. The ribs look great. So we're gonna let them sit for about 10 minutes and then we'll cut into them. Let's see what that looks like. Looks like it's has some moisture in there. So we're going to take one of these and take a taste test. All right, we're going to go selfie cam mode here. Got a rib. We're going to give it a bite. See how it tastes. Nice bite on this rib. It definitely has a lot of flavor to it. There's some heat to this, to the ribs. And I think it's from one of the rubs that I added. Although that rub, when I taste it out of the bottle, you pick up the sweetness and then the heat kicks in after that. If I run this recipe again to kind of cut back a little bit on that, on one of the rubs specifically, I should cut back on that. And so I used 3 different rubs. And part of this process was like that third rub that I used, there was 2 that I could have chose from. And so I chose one, but I'm thinking maybe going with the other one next time because that one has some more sweetness to it. And I think that will kind of cut back on the heat a little bit. But it has a lot of flavor. There's definitely plenty of moisture in it. The bite was a nice bite. These ribs took right at about 5 hours total cook time. 3 hours uncooked, exactly 3 hours, exactly 1 hour wrapped, and then about 30 minutes to 40 minutes unwrapped with sauce. So just a little bit under 5 hours, but they need a little tweaking. And so, you know, next time I make this or try this recipe, I'll definitely make sure to add a little tweak to it. So anyway, that's a rib cook. Hope you guys liked it. I will see you guys next time. Take care.